It's Ashley with School and Life, and I'm back for another mentoring moment. This week, I'm super excited because we are talking an important subject, imposter syndrome. I suffer from it, and I know so many other people do too, particularly women, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation and teach you how you can leverage imposter syndrome to win at work. First up, I just want to share that if you want to work with me one-on-one, let me mentor you. If you have questions about mentoring or want to know more about what to expect, you can also email me. So imposter syndrome is not just something that's made up or something that, no one feels. It is a real situation or issue for so many people related to work or how they experience a relationship with their friends or even in family. But specifically as it relates to work, it's really defined as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persists despite evident success. Maybe you've already went to school and earned that degree. Maybe you've done this work for other organizations or companies, or maybe you've proven time and time again that you are a leader in your field. But for some reason, typically due to self-confidence, a lack of self-confidence and some self-doubt, you're still struggling with imposter syndrome, this overwhelming feeling that you don't belong in the room, that you're not enough, and that you need more credentials or skills, or you need to bring something else to the table. What I want to assure you of is that you belong in the room. And I think that it's so true that it can feel defeating and overwhelming to not feel connected to the work that you do or feel like it's not yours to brag about or to really showcase, but it is. And imposter syndrome is real. I feel it. I know so many other people do too, but there's a way that you can leverage this thing called imposter syndrome. You don't have to let it defeat you or overwhelm you. You can use it to your advantage. And I'm going to share some strategies with you on how. I know for me specifically, I often suffer from imposter syndrome because I'm thinking to myself, am I qualified to be in this room? I'm second guessing myself about my skills and even how I got into the spaces that I got into. But recently, as I was reflecting on this sort of idea of imposter syndrome and how and why it shows up for me, I started to think about like how I could really leverage it to get what I want, and how I can leverage this feeling of vulnerability and this feeling of self-doubt to win at work. And what I realized is that there's a superpower in this idea of imposter syndrome. People who suffer from imposter syndrome are often very self-aware people. They know themselves. They know what they're good at. They know what their strengths are. They know what their weaknesses are. And maybe they're overplaying their weaknesses or overemphasizing them, but they really know themselves. They've done the work. They're not people who are aloof or don't know what's going on. They know what they bring to the table. They know what their values are. And they also maybe know what gaps they have. Because of that, these people are often people who, have done a lot of training, a lot of personal and professional development, a lot of listening. And so not only do they know themselves, but they know the people around them. Also, people who struggle with imposter syndrome often lean into the idea of vulnerability at work. I know that this can be a scary concept, but if you are behind on this concept, check out Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. We're all a fan, and you can lean into that topic more. But this idea of vulnerability is really, this sort of uncertainty and willingness to take risk and have some emotional exposure at work. And so the idea of self-awareness and really knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and weaknesses and gaps and areas of opportunity, and this idea of vulnerability at work, specifically willing to take risk and have some emotional exposure at work and really kind of put yourself out there and have some uncertainty, feel like you know everything. Self-awareness and vulnerability coupled together are a superpower for getting your ideas in front of the people that matter and leveraging and building trust with people to get your ideas heard. And I know that like a lot of that self-confidence and that lack of self-confidence and that self-doubt is how imposter syndrome comes up. But again, people that struggle with that are also very self-aware and very vulnerable. So what I encourage you to do is to use that vulnerability, use that self-awareness to connect with people, because you're not the only person at work who feels like that. There are other people who feel unsure. There are other people who are struggling with self-doubt. So be vulnerable and talk about that. Share that you don't know everything. Partner with somebody else in the office. Build trust with people that matter. Approach them about projects that they're working on. Let them know that this is an area of opportunity for you and you'd like to learn from them. Seek out mentorship. Ding, ding, ding. And make sure that you are being vulnerable enough to actually not only know your gaps and then mull over them in your mind, which is basically what imposter syndrome is, but honestly be honest about those gaps and share them with other people so that you can get the help that you need. The issue with imposter syndrome is not that you have it, it's that you're not leveraging it. You need to use imposter syndrome to be honest with yourself, but also with other people about what your gaps are, so that they can help you succeed and grow. So for me, when it comes to imposter syndrome, it's not something to hide. It's not something to be ashamed about. It's something to leverage. Speak up for yourself. Use that imposter syndrome to say, hey, I have some gaps around this. Being vulnerable enough to do that, and then seeking out mentors, your supervisor, new professional development opportunities to get in front of the people that matter, the decision makers at work, so that you can leverage that to get a raise, to manage up, to get your ideas heard at work. That's the way to use this idea of imposter syndrome to win at work. If you want to learn more about this idea of imposter syndrome and actually how you can leverage it in your specific scenario at work, let me mentor you. I offer one-on-one mentoring and support, particularly for high achieving women. I'd be happy to help you as well. I cannot wait to learn more about what you think about imposter syndrome and how it shows up for work with you. Leave me a note in the comments so that I can learn more about how you're struggling with imposter syndrome and help. And I cannot wait to talk to you next week. Bye.